Hello, hello. So if you are on, we are going to be starting in just a little bit. So while we wait for everyone to get on, please introduce yourself in the chat room and tell me what you'd love to get out of this lunch and learn experience. Hello, welcome, welcome. So feel free to use the chat room. We are going to be starting in a few minutes. Welcome. Hi, Kathleen. Can you see me and hear me? Everyone, just to make sure, let's check the tech. Hello, hello. I see more people coming on. Hello, Stella. So please go ahead and tell us. Oh, you can. Awesome. Thank you, Kathleen. Everyone else, can you see? Can you see and hear me? And there may be some Facebook sharing buttons or social media sharing buttons that you may see on your screen. If you see those, please feel free to go ahead and share this. That's absolutely fine. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Tutu. Welcome. So we're going to be starting in a minute. Hello, James. You can see and hear me. Thank you. Great. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to be starting. I'm just going to give it one more minute. So tell me, what are you guys looking to get out of this lunch and learn? While we give a few, it's just 12, so let's give them some time to come on. Tell me, what are you looking to get out of today's topic? Today's topic is, what is your oil? Discovering your purpose through adversity. And I'm going to be in the chat box answering you guys. So tell me what you guys would like to see. Just type it into the chat box, okay? While that's going on, I'm going to go ahead and start introducing myself because I know that a couple more people have come on. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Great. And like I said, feel free to share it. Feel free to send out the link. That is completely fine. In fact, I'd love for you to do that. All right. So my name is Ekene Anu, and I am a leadership consultant and a transformational coach. Thank you. And I work primarily with women, but I also work with organizations. I help people get refreshed. And getting refreshed means a couple of different things. Really, initially, it's really just focusing on yourself and getting yourself to the optimal state so that you can be more productive, so that you can acquire more wealth, you can show up as more present in your relationships, in your family, at work, just so that you can become more self-aware, more powerful. But with organizations as well, we do the same thing for their employees, help them get more engaged, help them be more productive, okay? But today, I am doing something that is really from my heart. And so I thank you guys for tuning in. One of the ways I have 4 foundations on which I refresh people. One is self-care, the other is spiritual connection. The third is being self-aware, self-mastery, okay? And the fourth is purpose. So this kind of crosses the top 3, self-mastery, purpose, and spiritual connection. Kathleen says more knowledge to move forward in your purpose. Awesome. So for me, I'm a woman of faith. If you've ever attended anything I've done or you've connected with me, you know that my faith is very much at the core of everything I do. And so today I have the privilege of being able to share some strategies, but strategies that are from a place of faith, okay? So thank you guys for being part of this. And what I would love for you guys to do is go ahead and put some stuff in the chat box, interact with me. If you have questions, you can go ahead and put that in there. I will be looking at that. I will be interacting with you guys. I don't want to just be straight lecture. Let's talk, let's share, okay? And I'm really going to share a personal story and a Bible story. And then I'm going to give you some steps using that story that will be helpful for you to be able to go from a place of adversity to a place of purpose, okay? So let me get right into it. Are you guys ready? So today we are going to be talking about your oil. What is your oil? And one of my favorite scriptures is, the gifts of a man make room for him and bring him before kings. It's one of my favorite scriptures because I know it to be true. Yes, Kathleen says, yes. I have seen it over and over again happen because, you know, we spend a lot of time investing in attaining skills, and skills are good. So I'll tell you my story so that I can highlight the scripture. I started out my career as a pharmacist, which means I spent 6 years in school, pharmacy school, getting all of the necessary information, education, and then I had to go through a licensing process, take a very hard exam, and before I was able to practice as a pharmacist. But when I practiced as a pharmacist, I practiced for many years, 16, 17 years, give or take. And it was very ho-hum for me. It didn't really move me anywhere as such. Now, there are a few pharmacists that I know that were just going places. And I think that's because that was more their space of purpose. It wasn't my purpose. It wasn't my path of purpose. And so it was just very ho-hum. I was showing up at work, getting paid, and going home. That was my life. It was kind of mundane. Now, at some point, I had a really difficult time, which launched me into my purpose. I'll tell you about that. And I decided that I had to change my life. And part of that change was changing careers. And when I changed my career, I decided I wanted to go into this personal and professional development space. And that was where I felt most called to. And yeah, Chi says she didn't realize it was up to 16 years. I know I look young. I know. Yes, it was up to 16 years. It was. I was started practicing in 1996, girl. So, it was a long time. It was a long time, and people often get stuck in that place. So I was kind of stuck. I broke out of it, started this personal and professional development business. And it's amazing the opportunities that have come my way since that happened. And so I'll just give some highlights. And in line with this scripture that says, the gifts of a man make room for him and bring him before kings. So just this year, I was selected as one of the UN Women Empowerment Global Champions. 2 years ago, I was selected as one of the 100 most influential women in Nigeria by one of the young magazines in Nigeria. So just little things that would never have happened if I didn't step into my gift. And it's just beginning, right? The best is yet to come. So I say this to encourage you. If you are here and you're kind of thinking, what am I supposed to do? Or what am I, I feel a calling inside of me, but I feel overwhelmed by how to get started, or there's just so many other things pulling at me. We have a natural pull towards significance. So, there's a lot of things that will distract you, but we have a natural pull towards significance. And so when we are not walking in our place of significance, we never feel comfortable. But once you get into that space where you're doing what you're meant to do, it may be hard, it may be difficult, you will have setbacks. Yes, you will, but you will feel fulfilled because you're walking in purpose, and amazing things start to happen. Okay, are you guys with me? So all of us have oil. Now, sometimes we think that, this is only for certain people. It's only for the Oprahs of the world. But no, every single one of us has oil, something that the world needs. And we have been birthed with a gift to bring a blessing onto the world. And so I told you guys that this is an opportunity for me to share from a place of spiritual connection and purpose, right? So I have to share from the word, y'all. Okay, so we're going to talk. I'm going to be sharing really from 2 Kings chapter 4. You don't have to open it up. This is not church, so you don't have to worry. I'm just going to tell you the story, okay? So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment so I can tell you the story. All right, so 2 Kings is really the story of a widow. The widow, she was married to a prophet before he died. And so we meet her when she is standing in front of Elisha, and she's really frustrated and really in a desperate situation because things have gotten really real, okay? Because her husband died and left her in debt. She has 2 sons. And back then, in those days, if you were in debt, your creditors could come and take your children into slavery. So she's standing in front of Elisha and she's like, listen, I have a really serious situation. I have no money. We're completely broke. And in fact, they're about to come and take my sons into slavery. What are you going to do? And she actually challenges Elisha. She says, my husband, your servant, because he was one of y'all, he was a prophet like you guys, maybe she's even upset. She might be like, you're a servant. I mean, I told him he could go into corporate America, but he said he wanted to serve the Lord. So he served the Lord and now he's dead and we are in debt. What are you going to do? So she's in a desperate situation. And I'm sure that some of us can at least relate to that. Feeling in as a money challenges. I know all of us can relate to that at some point or another. We've all had money challenges. I remember when I was in college, the very first time my bank account went into the red and I was like, oh my God. And then I discovered that, a lot of other people have their bank accounts in the red. I was like a sophomore in college, no money, but life goes on. So a lot of people have had these money challenges, or maybe you are in another kind of desperate situation that you just don't know how you're going to get out of. You are just like this woman. And the thing that tends to happen is you feel as if life is the worst thing, that, you're at the worst place and nothing's going to ever get better. But I want to challenge you to begin to see that you are actually at the best place. You're actually at the beginning of your breakthrough. See, you have been praying for the situation to go away. I need more money or whatever. But no, what's going to happen is that you are going to move from this particular place of adversity into a place of purpose. This adversity has been sent to help you move. Because she went to Elisha, and Elisha asked her 2 questions. You would think that he would just say, okay, you guys go get her some bread or get her some money or whatever. Elisha says first, how can I help you? Which, when I read that scripture, and I read a lot of scripture, when I read that scripture, I was like, that's interesting. Imagine someone in front of you really stressing. You're like, how can I help you? And she's like, you better know how to help me because I need help, right? But he's thinking, I started thinking about it, that he's thinking, how can I really help you? I mean, it's obvious how I can help you. You need money. But he's thinking, how can I really help you? How can I help you grow? How can I help you become who you're meant to be? How can I help you step out into your place of purpose? How can I help you? And that's where a lot of us are. How can I help you? And that's what I want this webinar to be for you. An opportunity for you to begin to see something that you didn't see before. Because your solution is not just circumstantial. Your solution is life-changing. Your solution is actually not even just for you, it's for someone else. So let me tell you about my story, and then I'm going to go back to the slides, okay? So I told you that I would share personally. When I moved from being, and you guys, if you have questions, comments, please go ahead and put it in the chat box, okay? When I moved, I told you I left pharmacy, and there was a season of my life that was just really difficult. There were a number of things that weren't going according to plan, and just a number of things. I have talked already before, I've shared openly before about how I had challenges before I had my daughter with miscarriages and whatnot, and that wasn't part of my plan. And I'd done everything I thought I should do. I ticked all the right boxes, got married, had a job, got a home, but it just, so many things were wrong. And I remember the day that I just crumbled before God, and I started to cry and pray. And I wasn't even really praying. I call it praying because I was wailing, and it was the beginning of the shifting. Because after that time, that night, that midnight hour, I decided to go into the Word. and I wanted to understand. I was like, you know what? People have been through adversity before. We have a lot of examples in the Bible. So maybe there's some nuggets in there that I need and I'm going to use to change my situation. And so I started to do that. The other thing that started to happen, as I started to do that, I started shifting and changing. Wisdom, the word gives you wisdom, and from the word you get understanding. I began to, my perspective changed. And as my perspective changed, I would start to write. And I would write different things, and then I would write them on Facebook and write different epiphanies I would have, or I would share stories about, this happened today, and this is what I learned from it, which is what I still do. If you follow me on Facebook, I do that. And I would share the learnings, and people would have these great, write comments and send me emails like, oh, that story you shared, or so changed my life, and blah, blah, blah. And I began to see that there was something here. I didn't quite know what it was, but I saw there was something here. So let me see what Stella is saying. Stella, overthinking everything. Yeah. Overthinking. So we're going to talk about that in a minute, Stella. Thank you for sharing that. So I was just in a place of writing these things down. Now, one of the things that happened, though, I was writing as a way, it was cathartic for me. So people think I write like just for Facebook or whatever, but sometimes that for me is just a way of me working through my own issues and finding peace. And so that was what I was doing. I would write and then I would get peace, and people would comment, and then I would also know I'm not alone. It was just very healing for me. So in my pursuit of my own healing, because I was in a place of adversity, I ended up creating something. So I wrote and wrote and wrote, and then this became a book. These are all the different Facebook notes that I was writing. So I was writing all the different Facebook notes, people would comment, and so eventually what happened was I went through all the notes, and a number of people had started to say, I wish this was a book. In fact, one lady told me, I've printed them down and I read them. You should make it a book. So I was hearing that over and over again. And so I took the advice and I turned it into a book. And I took the best ones and I turned it into a book. And actually, the book is still available. You can even get it on Amazon right now, because it has been such a blessing, that book. So many people tell me about how the book has been so helpful for them, and how it has opened them up, and how it has made them aware of the way they've been thinking and so on. It's just a very open, honest book about my particular struggles and my epiphanies with faith. So anyway, so that was what happened. This is an example of how my period of pain, I started writing to heal myself. I started writing to get my thoughts out and to just share. And then I put it on Facebook, put it out there, and then it turned into an actual product. So if you have followed, you've already seen the steps, but I'm going to break it down for you, okay? All right, so let's get right back into the slides. Now that you know my personal story and you know where we came, and you know that we all have oil. And so maybe right now you are at that place. You have just talked to the Lord and you said, listen, I need some help right now. And you don't know, it seems as if you've been abandoned, and it seems as if there's no help. Challenge you, there's help. I want to challenge you that adversity can be oppressed. So this photo right here is a photo of the old olive oil pressing machines. I guess you can call it machine, right? So they used to put the olives right in that little thing and then go over it with this heavy mallet type thing. Okay, so the olives had to be almost crushed in order to release the oil. So right now, the season you might be in, if you're in a difficult season, you might not be in a difficult season. You might just be getting prepared, right? If you ever find yourself in a difficult season, understand that that difficulty is just a press so that the best of you can begin to come out. You are not going to be crushed. You are just being pressed so the oil can come out, okay? Are you guys with me? Can anyone relate to that? Does anyone feel like they're being pressed down, but not destroyed? If you can relate to that, please go ahead and put that in the chat box so I know who I'm talking to. Am I talking to my people? All right. So number one, what happens? How do you begin to go from this place of adversity to a place of launching out? So the very first thing that happened for the woman in the place talking to Elisha in 2 Kings was Elisha says, how can I help you? Then he asked her, what do you have in the house? What do you have in the house? Kathleen, you can relate. Awesome. What do you have in the house? So this is a very key question. Because a lot of us, when if we were asked that question, we would answer like she did. She said, your servant has nothing there at all except a small jar of oil. So this is I love this particular story because it is so powerful. We often think that we have to go outside to get what we need, but we have everything we need to be successful in this life. See, he asked, what do you have in the house? Not in someone else's house. Because you think, sometimes when you're watching social media or whatever, it feels as if only I had that degree, if only I had that much money, if only I was born over there, if only I looked the way she did, if only I was married to so and so, then whatever would happen. But no, it's what do you have in the house? What do you have in the house? And very often your oil, your gift, is something that has been completely discounted, something that has been completely undervalued, something that is not been cultivated. It's not being cultivated. Okay, we have a question, so I'm going to pause for the question. Question, how about for the woman who has so much going on and still feels short? Interesting. So, you know what I would say, Stella? If you have so much going on and you still feel like something's missing, chances are all the things you have going on may still not yet be your purpose. And so you may want to go back to, well, so that's a really deep question. We may need to break it down a little bit more, right? Because I think I've worked with some women like you before that have a lot. You have maybe you're multi-talented, but maybe you haven't yet connected the talents to the people you're meant to serve. So that's one thing. Maybe you're not serving the people you're meant to serve. So maybe there's a way that needs to show up. Or maybe there's a part that hasn't yet been developed. There's something else that you're meant to give that hasn't yet been done. So someone like myself, I write, but I also do a lot of other things. Now, if I focused only on writing, I don't think I'd feel as fulfilled. I feel more fulfilled when I write, when I teach, when I do a number of things, but they're all connected to the same purpose. And my primary purpose is to empower women and to empower them to step into the fullness of who they are. So Stella, I think the key thing is not just what you're doing, is that what you're doing connects to the purpose. It's purposeful. And I don't know if that helps you, but if that doesn't help you enough, don't worry, we're going to come back to you, okay? Want to keep moving. That's a great question, though. Thank you for sharing it. And guys, if you have any other thoughts on it, please feel free to support Stella in that, and I'd love to hear your other questions and concerns, okay? All right, so first of all, let me do another tech check, okay? Can you see this? You can see my screen. You can see me, right? You can see the slides. Can you see me? Yes? Everyone, are we together? Okay, this is a new platform, so thank you for bearing with me, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Yes? I'm going to continue while I wait for you guys to answer that question. So it's often that thing that has been discounted, undervalued, misunderstood, not cultivated. For me, because my writing had never been something that I considered as anything major. In fact, for a very long time, I thought, only the slides. Okay, thank you very much. For a very long time, I thought that I could only, all right, so I'm turning the camera on so that we can see both. Yes, okay, awesome, thank you. All right, so for a very long time, I thought unless I had like an MFA, or which is a Master's of Fine Art, or some sort of thing that qualified me, I couldn't serve in this particular arena. But I want to challenge you. What you have has value. There's a wonderful saying. I don't believe it's a scripture, but it's a wonderful saying. Actually, it does come from scripture that says, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And there are a lot of supporting scriptures of that. There's a one that I love that says he uses the foolish things to confound the wise. Very often when I meet women, they are comfortable. So Stella, and I don't know if this is you, this might be you. I don't know, because we don't know. I don't know you yet. But sometimes we're comfortable operating in a place that we feel very skilled at. So these are our skill sets. We're very comfortable operating in that space. But the things that we are, deep down inside, that your oil, we're not comfortable operating in it because it's not yet something that we've cultivated. So we haven't yet identified as something major that we should be focusing on. All right. So because we haven't cultivated, we're not yet comfortable operating in it. So we operate in this other space where, so that for me, that would be if I was still working as a pharmacist. Okay. Because that I knew, I did that for so many years. I got that. I know that. But if you're willing to shift into this area, like for me, which was the book, not just the book, the writing, the speaking, the coaching, which was new back then. I've been doing that now for 4 or 5 years. It was new for me then. It was a place, it was uncomfortable because I didn't have that same level of proficiency. It was still something that was discounted and undervalued. It took some time to develop it. You have to be willing to identify. Maybe this is what I'm meant to give. Maybe this is what I'm meant to do. Maybe this is how I'm meant to serve. Not everyone's going to quit their job. I'm not suggesting that by any means necessary, by any means at all, because let's be real, sometimes that's not what you're called to do. But maybe for you, and since Stella is the only person that really gave that question, I'm still speaking to her and answering that question. Maybe it's that you need to do, yeah, maybe it's that you need to just start testing out something else with another group. Maybe you need to serve more. Maybe you're already doing so much in this area, but maybe you need to target it differently. So, okay, you've responded. It's a case of the multi-talented. Yeah, you are multi-talented, I suspected. And the struggle of trying to blend the many activities into the overall purpose of my life. I feel this is where my infamous skill of overthinking is working against me. Yeah. So keep it simple. So you may actually need to edit. You might need to edit, and this is challenging with multi-talented people. And by the way, I feel I can relate to you because I feel multi-talented as well. But you may need to edit, and not every talent is necessarily for every season. Some talents are for different seasons. There's some things that I know that I have in me that are not for this season. And so that's where get the self-mastery and the spiritual connection are very powerful, because that's where you get the divine strategy, so to speak. Okay, does that make sense? So let's move on. Understanding, okay? So the first part is, can you identify what your oil is? And you guys that are quiet on the thing, on the call, can you tell me if right now you have something you can identify that might potentially be your oil? Something that you have discounted, something that you have undervalued? Can you tell me if there's something? You don't have to tell us what it is, but in your heart of hearts, there's something that, you know what? And I spoke at a conference in Houston, and there was a lady in there, and she said, well, I bake cakes. And I said, well, tell me about those cakes. And she told me that they're phenomenal. People love those cakes. And I said, well, you do know that there are massive businesses around cake baking. Sprinkles and the like are from people who are, that could be your act of love, so don't discount it. You discounted it. Perhaps that's your oil. Okay, so writing and speaking, Chichi, okay, great. There you go. So that's something, that's your oil. So now you've identified it. Now let's talk about how to understand how to use it. So the next scripture, oh, Kathleen, good. Something has just come to your awareness. Awesome. The next scripture was the next thing he said. So first he said to her, right, what do you have in the house? And she responded. The next thing he said was, okay, here's what you're going to do. Since you only have a little bit of oil, you're going to go around and ask all of your neighbors for their empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. So I read the scripture many times, but it was recently that I was reading it, and I saw that last part. Don't ask for just a few. And I was like, goodness, this is like business 101. It makes complete sense. Teaching, Tanya. Awesome. That's awesome. So there has to be a need. Okay, like if you're multi-talented especially, you may have many different things you can do. But the fact is, if there's no need, then it's not serving anyone. There has to be a need, which is why paying attention, he didn't say go and ask them to empty out their jars. He said ask for their empty jars. So what is the need? Where is the emptiness in your community? Where is the emptiness around you? What is the need you can fill? You have to be able to fill a need. So it has to be empty. So what do you have? What's your oil, right? But how can that oil fill the need? So sometimes it's the expression of it. So maybe I can write, but is it maybe I need to write about certain things that speak to certain women? So where's the emptiness? And then the need has to be large enough to create sustainable demand. And now I'm just kind of talking more from a business perspective, but if you are thinking about walking from on a path of purpose and turning it into a business, that's the next thing that you need to be answering. Is this need large enough to create a sustainable demand? Because if it's not, then you may have to tweak it. Okay, if it's not, you will burn out because you'll be hungry, you'll be frustrated. You are meant to be able to eat off this. Okay, because the whole scripture is about her. He said, how can I help you? And so he's giving her some key strategies to help her. So there has to be a need. You have to be able to meet that need. You have to be able to meet that need. Sometimes people get caught up in great ideas that they have to go and get 20 other people to do. No, start with what you can offer. What can you offer? And I'm very much about keeping it simple, because again, this is about your oil. What can you do? What can you do? Start there. And then the need has to be large enough to create the sustainable demand. And remember, when we talked about step one, you might have to cultivate the need. So just because you might have to cultivate your oil, pardon me. So just because you have an ability, you may have to do, improve on it. I improved on it, right? So I got certified. I have quite a few certifications already. And I went back to school, studied organizational leadership and change leadership. So I went to refine my oil. So you have to be willing to refine your oil. So what she did was she started with the understanding. So started with identification. I have just a little bit of oil. And she started with understanding, okay? Go get the empty jars so you know what the need is and stop pouring it in. The pouring was the cultivation. Start cultivating your oil. So I started cultivating. I had to cultivate. So the first way of cultivation, and this is often where people don't want to do the work, you have to do the work. Practice makes perfect. So he told her, pour the oil into all the jars. And as each is filled, put it to one side. He didn't say when you fill one, go sell it. No, pour it into all of the jars first. So sometimes you have to start serving. I was on a panel once, and actually, I wasn't on the panel. I was leading the panel. It was Passion Spark, which is a class I taught in Lagos many years ago. And there were 4 people on the panel, so all successful business owners. And it was interesting. The youngest business owner was a man, a gentleman. And then there were some older business owners who had been sort of very seasoned. And I'm actually curious to know, because his business was only about a few years, maybe a year old at the time. I'm curious to know if his answer would be different. So they asked the panel, would you do work for free? Everyone on the panel said yes, I would do work for free. And he was the only one that said, no, I don't believe in doing work for free. You should be paid no matter what. And they all disagreed, and it was a little bit of a controversy. And I feel this way about it. When you are practicing your craft, you're not doing anything for free. You're getting revenue. It's just not financial revenue. You are getting experience. Experience is a form of revenue. So I look at things that I still till today, I'm asked to do things for free sometimes. And I always ask myself, what kind of revenue am I going to get from it if I want to do it? So if I speak at a church, sometimes I'll speak at a church and I'll get an honorarium, which is, they're not paying me a fee, but they're giving me some sort of stipend to say thank you. In that case, I'm getting spiritual revenue. The rest of the money that I would have gotten is spiritual revenue. Sometimes it's emotional revenue. Sometimes I'm doing it because, I know I just want to serve. I spoke at a youth's homeless shelter recently, a few months back, and it was incredible. It was service for me. I didn't get paid, of course, but it was emotional revenue for me. I left there just so empowered by these young people. And then the other thing that can happen is you can get relationship revenue. I say this because sometimes people don't want to do the work because they think I should get paid right away. But relationship revenue, you're doing it because you want to build a relationship with someone. So I want to show the different ways you're getting paid, but then they're not necessarily money. And like I've already pointed out, experience is revenue. Sometimes you're just going to have to go out there and practice. You may have to give away a number of cakes before you actually start selling them, because as you're giving it away and you're getting feedback, it's what companies market research. Big companies still give out massive samples because they want to get feedback. They want to know, is our product the very best it can be? Practice makes perfect. So you have to be willing to do the work to cultivate that skill, which is why a lot of people don't want to do, don't want to build up on their oil, because they've already spent so much time investing in something else. You're like, I have to start all over again. But, you do have to do the work, and it does take time. So you have to be willing. Talent is not enough. Skilled talent is what you need. So just like you went and got your skills, and because this has been a talent you never really cultivated it, you need to cultivate it to be able to command top dollar. Again, if you don't like the price, raise the value. So just like a house, when a house is on the market and you're not getting the numbers that you want, a realtor might tell you, well, may need to do some renovation. Again, if you brought your oil out, and this happens sometimes too. You did, I wrote a book, or did whatever. I didn't get the kind of response I wanted. Figure out how you're going to go and do some renovations and improve it. Raise the value. Does that make sense? Are you guys still with me? Does that make sense? Can you all relate to that? Okay. I told you there were just 4 steps. So I'm giving you 4 very quick steps, and then I'm going to open up the floor for questions, answers, and discussions, and we'll go back and forth into it. But I want to make sure that I give it really clear. So with Tanya teaching and writing and speaking, how are you going to cultivate it? So we're going to do some commitment work. So we're at step 4, but we're not done yet. So don't run away. So step 4. All right, great. Step 4. Step 4 is you have to sell, ask, put yourself out there. So step 1 is identify the oil. Okay, this is what I have to offer. Step 2, go get the empty vessels and start pouring it out. So maybe you're doing a lot of service in your community. Step 3, as you're pouring it out, you're cultivating, you're investing in a lot of training, you're doing all that. This is where a lot of people get stuck. Some people, because selling is not fun. Selling is scary. Asking people, come to my event, or come to my this, or whatever. It's not, who has sold anything, and who can relate? Who can tell me selling is fun? If you tell me selling is fun here, then I really want to connect with you, because I want you to teach me how to make it fun, because I sell like crazy because I have to, but I don't love it till today. Putting yourself out there. You don't want to put yourself out there. On Saturday, we had an event, and one of the questions I asked the ladies are you willing to be seen? Stella says, I can relate. Yes. Are you willing to be seen? We don't want to be seen. It's uncomfortable. But this is a crucial step to walking in purpose. Because what happens is people get stuck in the giving, and then they get burnt out. Go and sell the oil. This is what Elisha said. He's given her the steps. He said, how can I help you? The beginning was, how can I help you, right? And then it ended at, go and sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left. You're meant to live on what is left. So there's nothing wrong with eating off your craft. Your oil is meant to feed you. Sometimes the reason why we are not having success is we have a dysfunctional relationship with money. We don't understand what money is. Money is a resource. That's all it is. It's a resource. And so, sometimes we have these locks in our minds. We have these mind blocks around money. We have a mind block around selling. We think that if we tell people, yes, Tanya says selling is telling. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So for me, that's one of the things that changed the game for me as far as putting myself out there. It was no longer about, oh my gosh, I'm trying to self-promote. No, it was simply about I needed to tell people how I can serve them. I needed to tell people how I can help them. I needed to tell people what I had for them. It doesn't help anyone if you take your gift and you put it in your room. Again, okay, shall we go back to the word? Let's go back to the word. The parable of the talents. Some of you are like the guy who buried, and I know this, and I'm saying you because I was that person. I had taken all of my talents and I had buried them because I didn't want any stress, all the things you're good at. You just keep them under lock and key, and nobody knows about it. No one knows about it. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. Okay, so Stella has a question here, and then we'll go back to the last slide. How do you encourage someone whose ideas seem not for profit, very social centric, helping people and not profit? How would that grow to a level where they have to see profit in every idea? Okay, so there are many, many people whose purposes are going to flow into the nonprofit state. I mean, and nonprofits are a vital part of our ecosystem, our business ecosystem. We need the nonprofits. Otherwise, our society would fail. So there's absolutely, some people are called to that. Not everybody is going to be a millionaire. And by the way, millions don't make everyone happy. You really have to know yourself. This is why I teach on the 4 things, self-mastery. You have to know yourself, because number one, the way you show up, that might not be that important to you. Then now the other side is that just because you're running a nonprofit doesn't mean you're not going to get paid well. So if you think about successful nonprofits, go and look at the salaries of the CEOs and the executive directors and so on. Successful nonprofits still are providing money for their employees. So it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. And then there's also this other breed of businesses now. In fact, there's a new category, I think it's B Corps, that are social enterprise. So social entrepreneurs, people who are very social centric, like you said. There's a class, not every state has it, but they're actually, if you go to register your business, there are some states that have a class of business where the business is actually designed less to make money and more to help people. And so you would be able to, so with that, it's about providing the service. Even with nonprofits, if you provide a service and you do a really good job at it, then you're able to apply, and you're focused on getting the grants and you're getting the funds. You can become it's not profitable because it's nonprofit, but you can bring in quite a bit of revenue. Okay, so you have to decide, the question of nonprofit versus not for profit, nonprofit, for profit is not necessarily based on, can I make money at it? Will I be okay? But it's more about, where do I feel? How do I feel? Who do I want to serve? If you're serving a population, particularly that's underserved, that doesn't have the funds, then more than likely you are going to go the nonprofit route, because that population is not likely going to be able to afford you. If you're serving a population that can afford it, perhaps the for-profit might work for you. So it's about figuring out what model works, because you can still do everything you've said. You can be social centric. I have a for-profit business. I'm social centric. I do focus on helping people, and I do do a lot of kind of nonprofit type stuff. So for example, one of the ways that I feed that part of my soul, even though I run a for-profit, is I'll often do scholarships for certain programs. That way I know that I'm still serving some people who may not be able to afford the fees. That's very common. If you've been to any of my events, I think one of the events I had at the Westin in 2013, there was a woman, she had heard about the event, she asked to speak to me, and she said, I can't afford to come. And she started to cry right at the door. I don't always feel led to let people in, so don't show up crying. Because I had some Nigerians show up saying, I'd like to come, but I'm only going to stay an hour. I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with me? Sorry. So just to be clear, but I was moved by this woman, and she came in and she was such a blessing. Kathleen, I think you were at that event. I don't know if you remember her, but she was such a blessing to all of us. She shared her testimony and what had gone on and what she was going through. And I was so blessed because I gave up my seat for her, because we were full. We were pretty full at the time when she came. So I told her to sit in my seat so that she could be blessed. So I think that, just because someone's ideas are nonprofit doesn't mean they shouldn't be encouraged. Go for it. Go for it. But you will have to do the work. So sometimes the reason why nonprofits fail, and a good place to look at, the Foundation Center is a really good resource. They really support nonprofits. So sometimes people with nonprofits, that when they struggle, it's often because they haven't aligned themselves with the right resources. They haven't cultivated either, because sometimes when you're not offering it for profit and you think you're giving it away for free, so you think it doesn't have value, and you treat it like it's not important. And when you treat it like it's not important, it doesn't grow. Okay, am I speaking to you, Stella? Are you with me? Any other questions? And then let me go back to the slide so that we can get back into it, okay? So this is the next thing. So I've talked about the 4 steps. The 4 steps. Number 1, identification. What is your oil? Number 2, understanding. Number 3, cultivating your oil. And number 4, being willing to present it to the world. Yes, awesome, Stella, thank you. So this is the question I have for you guys right now. And this is the key question. This is the key question. Because at the end of the day, you can get all the knowledge in the world, but if you do not change your behavior, if you do not do something with it, nothing changes. So the question I have for you today is, what are you going to do? For those of you that identified, I saw some people saying teaching, writing, for those of you that identified what your oil is, have you gotten to the point of understanding whether there's a need in the market? If you have, give me a yes. If you have, give me a yes. Okay? If you have, give me a yes. Are you understanding, do you understand where the need is, what the need is, where the empty jars are? If you have, yes. If not, no. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, for those of you that do, have you started to pour into it? And that's the cultivation part. Because sometimes you have a lot of skill, but you still want to test. So I started my business with a methodology called the Lean Startup. It's a great book. You can go get it. It's available to everyone. You can get it. But it's very simple. I'll break it down to you in like a simple thing. You put it out there. You have an idea. You put it out there, and that's testing it. You put it out there. Test it. You see what the reaction is, see what the feedback is. If the feedback is good, do more of that. If the feedback is lukewarm or not good, tweak it. If the feedback tells you you need to change or pivot, okay? Because sometimes you're busy trying to perfect it before you even test it. You don't know whether it's going to be. You don't know if the jar is truly empty for you. So the name of the book is called The Lean Startup. I'll type it in. The Lean Startup. You can even just Google the Lean Startup and you'll see the methodology. But I teach it. I use it consistently. I've used it because I started my business with zero money, zero. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I started it with zero, and it has been growing. And I tell you, I was telling someone else recently, a lot of other people started around the same time, and they're not here today. Why? Because they also did not do things to make sure that they were sustainable. Even when you're starting, especially when you're starting out in your purpose and you're figuring it out, I always believe, think big, start small. Why? You're going to make mistakes. And when you think big and you start small, the mistakes you make are smaller. Sometimes people make mistakes that take them out. You want to go big. Go big or go home. I understand that idea. But I feel like if you can't go big, don't go home. Okay? Do something. But start small. I really think that I like the pouring into the jars. Start little by little by little. You start with one jar, then you've poured into 4, then you've poured into 10. By the time you've poured into 30, I mean, if you just even the basic visual of pouring oil into a jar, when you pour into the first one, more than likely you'll spill along the sides. By the time you pour into the 20th, you're a pro. You're not spilling into anything. So give yourself the opportunity to be a pro by doing little things consistently. Little things consistently. Refresh has grown because we do a lot of little things consistently, and we do them well. Be faithful in the little. Do the little things well. Sometimes you want to do a big event for 500 people, and you haven't even done an event for 20 people successfully. Little things well. Yes. So Stella says, yes, the Bible talks about counting your costs before building a house. Absolutely. So think about what you want to do. And it's okay to have an end goal, like, okay, but in a year, and we often underestimate what we can do in a long period of time, and we overestimate what we can do in a short period of time. Give yourself time. So those of you that know what you're doing, so Chi said you started in a little way. Kathleen and Tanya said, yes, you've started. So tell us, what are you going to do? What's the next big thing you can do? And I don't know if you want to share, maybe you don't want to share your corporate strategies, that's okay. But tell us I want you to make a commitment, because commitment is everything. Commitment is everything. So what are you going to do? And what area? You can just tell us what step you need to focus on more. So maybe you don't want to share the specifics of what you want to do, but tell me what step you need to focus on more and how you're going to focus on that. So obviously for most of you, step 1 is not there anymore. You have a sense of your oil, which is great. Those of you that are not yet on step 1, that's something you want to sit down and think about. What is your oil? What's that thing that people come to you naturally for? And it could be something you don't even think is important. Coaching came out of, I'm sure coaching is a new modality. It's new. It's relatively new. What, 20 years? It hasn't been around forever. Someone started it, and it started with someone saying, oh gosh, every time I talk to you, I feel encouraged. I can go, I'm empowered. That probably was thought, when, the first person that thought to charge for that, someone probably thought, when he talked to people about it, people thought he was crazy. Like, what? What? You're just encouraging people, but encouraging has value. So what is it that you do naturally that pours out of you, that flows from you, and people come to you for it? It could be your sense of style. It could be you're good with numbers. It could, whatever it is. So if you're at step one and you're kind of like, gosh, they already know what their oil is. I don't even know what my oil is. Think about what is that thing that comes out of you naturally. It could be prayer, because not everybody's purpose is going to be turned into a business, but everyone has, it should be impacting people. So it could even be prayer. Maybe you're meant to start a ministry. It could be feeding the hungry. Maybe you're meant to start something along those lines. I believe each and every one of us has a people that we're meant to impact. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat room yet, y'all, because I need some chat. I need some chatting up in here. So tell me, what step are you going to focus on? Is it step one, identifying it? Step two, create some mini courses to teach. Tanya, I like that. Thank you. That's a specific goal. Only thing I need you to do, Tanya, is make it time bound. By when are you going to do that? And so maybe you say, I'll have my first course done by when? You don't even have to know exactly how yet, but give yourself a deadline. So, because when, they always say tomorrow is, someday is not a day on the calendar. So give yourself a deadline. So Tanya has started by giving us a commitment, and a concrete commitment, specific, is measurable, is actionable, is realistic, and it's going to be time bound in a minute. I'm watching the chat room. Ladies, let's see, Kathleen, motivating daily peace and purpose in action. Daily, I like the daily, peace and purpose in action. Okay, I like it. It's not as specific, but I like it. I like it, Kathleen. All right, awesome. So guys, where else? I saw some other names on here. I saw Ngozi on here. I saw Chi Chi on here. Let me go into the room. I'm going to start calling y'all out. We have Ike Tutu. Welcome. Yinka. We have quite a few people. Awesome. You guys are great. Okay. Okay. I'm going to focus on passing my certification by the end of August. Okay, cool. And you're going to be working on your video series by September. Love it. Wonderful. October 1st, Tanya. So Tanya is going to have some mini courses to teach October 1st. Good. I'm looking forward to it, Tanya. Awesome. So guys, the rest of you, okay, start working on a workbook devotional based on your book. What's the name of your book? Put it in the chat box. Tell us where we can get your book. And then develop 1-minute log videos based on various aspects of divorce by, I don't know when, but I'll do it. Hey, is this my Chi Chi from Kenya? Could it be? Hey, okay, great. And so I say my Chi Chi, I've claimed, if it's not, I love you all the same, but if it is, I've claimed her because she has a fabulous book called Strange Woman. Is that right? Is that you? Okay, so, and it's a wonderful book, a memoir on divorce and her experience with going through divorce, and it's just amazing. So, did I out you? But it's wonderful. No one knows your last name, so that's wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. So guys, I apologize if I outed you, Mama, but it's a wonderful, you guys, I want you guys to do these things, go through the steps. As you can see, I'm a very girlfriend, girl next door. I don't have any fluff. I don't have any pretension. I just keep it real. I offer it to you the way it is. I want you to be comfortable with that. Because sometimes we try to, we make it so mechanical, people can't relate to you. Every single person is a human being first. It doesn't matter what title they have. It doesn't matter how much money they have. They're all human beings first. And they want to relate to you as human beings. So I'd like for you to please step into your full self, okay? Understand that what you carry has such value and you cannot die with it. I want to be like Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou said that she wanted to die empty. I want to die empty. I want to know that I've done it all. I've done everything I can. By the time I die, I would have done it all. I want that. That's my goal, to express it all. And so some of them are going to be hits and some might be misses, but even if you have a miss, don't quit. Keep going. Okay, any other questions? Do you feel empowered to go from the 4 steps, step 1 to step 4? I want to tell you that, so I told you about the first book, Can I Be Real? So I want to share with you a second opportunity. So this particular class comes from another book that I just finished a couple of months ago called Despair to Destiny. And I've just put it up there. So if you click that link, you can get it on Kindle. If you want to go to Amazon and search for it, just search by my name, Ekene Onu. I have 3 books available on Amazon: The Mrs. Club, Can I Be Real, and Despair to Destiny. Despair to Destiny is a full-on study. And then I'd like for you guys to, so you can get the book there, but also I am doing a Bible study, which is free as well, based, and we're going to go deep into these very things we're talking about here. And you can sign up on the link I've just put in the chat box. You can sign up at the chat box, refreshforlife.com/Bible. We're going to be doing a Bible study on going from adversity to advantage, and it's based on this book. Okay, this is the book that came out of my study when I was in the midst. I told you guys I went into the Word, right? I went into the Word. I wanted to understand the people who have been through different struggles in the Bible. How did they get out? How did they get success? And as I was reading, it was just like revelation, like, wow, 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 wow. A few people have read the book and sent me emails. More than a few people read the book, but some people have sent me actual emails about the different things that they've done differently. And I tell you, the book, the writing, the work was a gift to me. I know it'll be a gift to you. So I encourage you to get the book on Kindle, but I also really encourage you to join us for this Bible study. It's going to start August 8th. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you guys again. So I'm about to jump off. The hour is almost up. So I want to check in with you guys one last time. Thoughts, ahas, comments. This is the time to put this in there. If you just want to wish me well, thank you. I wish you well too. And I really appreciate you guys all for coming out. I am really grateful that you guys chose to spend time with me. Any other thoughts? I see some of y'all dropping off. Say bye. So if you say bye, I want to just make sure you guys are all good, and then I'll jump off. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to seeing you on the Bible study if you're interested in that. Get the book if you're interested. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Kathleen. Get the books. The books are available. And bye. Nice way to spend your evening. Yes, I enjoyed it too. All right, so we will, and I'll do more of these. Yes, thank you. So we'll connect again soon. And if you are not on my list, go to refreshforlife.com and get on my list. If you want to work closely with me, you'll find information on that too. Hang in there, girl. I will. Thank you. All right, talk to you all soon. Take care. Be well. God bless.